Hey guys, welcome back to Combustion Junction. Here in the garage working on the ZZR 250, which video will be coming shortly, but something that I'm about to attack right now, which I actually get a few emails and inquiries from people. I guess it's because I'm using these Speedos. People are wondering about the wiring of them and in particularly, the neutral light. And I'm about to hit that right now on this, so I thought I'd bring out the camera and just do a quick little video specifically showing how I get around the neutral and in this case, the oil pressure light wiring. So as you can see, this is a pretty typical eBay, Amazon Speedo aftermarket. This particular one has the 4 lights on it: turn, high beam, neutral, and oil pressure. So normally with the stock setup, the neutral and the oil pressure light get a permanent hot signal. And the way they get switched on and off is through grounds on the engine. When the bike is in neutral, there's a little sensor, inside somewhere, it could be a lobe on a cam or something, that actually connects that wire to the ground on the bike. And so what happens is when the switcher's in the neutral position, the ground wire gets grounded to the bike, sends ground, completes the circuit, turns on the neutral light. Then so when you switch out of gear, that connection gets disconnected, turns the neutral light off. Very simple, very effective. Same thing with the oil pressure light. There's a switch in the engine somewhere that that literally moves when oil pressure hits it, and what it does is it lifts the ground. So when you turn your key on, this light is on until the engine gets enough oil pressure to flip that switch. It lifts the ground, turns off the light. That's how these two work. So these guys come with 2 ground wires, and what most people think is that, oh, it's a ground for the neutral and a ground for everything else. And most of the time, and what I've seen of these, it's not correct. One ground is for illumination, so you can just have a separate switch for that. The other ground lights up all 4 lights. So there's no separate grounding for the oil pressure and the neutral light. So what I'm going to do is install relays in the headlight bucket that will reverse the neutral switch into a hot switch. So I figured I'd turn on the camera and show you guys how I go about that right now. Okay, so here's my setup. This is the original wiring harness here. That's the headlight plug. This is mainly to do with the temperature gauge, which I have to deal with later. And this is the main plug that drives the Speedo. So the light green is the ground signal for the neutral light. So that's what we want to get switched. This guy is the harness for the new Speedo. And what I've done so far is I've just plugged in the wires that I know just get a switch positive, meaning left and right turn signal. And I have a high beam and that red is the illumination. So those I can just plug straight into the harness and they work right out of the gate, turn the lights on and everything else. The last wires I have coming from the new Speedo harness, I have black. It's a universal shared ground for all the warning lights. And then I have this black with the white stripe, which is the ground for illumination. So those they're gonna get joined and find one common ground on the harness. So my last 2 wires are the green with the red stripe and the yellow with the black stripe. And those are the positive signals for my neutral light and my oil light. These are the ones we want to get switched. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a permanent switched hot signal. Either tap it off of maybe the illumination or I think, I'm pretty sure this guy on the other side is a switched 12 volt. One of these is a switched 12 volt. Pretty standard relay. It's the 5-pin one, meaning that the one pin is permanently open and one pin is permanently closed, and the trigger goes between the two. So if you want to have a permanent hot that turns off, then you can use the wiring the other way. We're just going to use it as an on switch. The pins we're using is 85, 86. That's basically the trigger that when a 12 volt plus and negative get applied to those two pins, it flicks the switch over here between 30 and 87. The other one's 87A, just so you know. So you apply plus and minus voltage to those two. This flips a switch, sends whatever's on 30 out 87. So what I'm going to do today for this is I'm going to first get a switched hot off the harness. Like I said, I'm going to send it to both 85 and to 30. So basically the plus 12 volts that I'm using to trigger the relay is also going to be the 12 volts that lights the light. Take a lead off of this, put it in there, and jump it over to that one. That gets my hot signal. The 85 is going to be the engine switched ground, or the neutral switched ground, which is this light green guy. So I'm going to take that, punch it into 85. So therefore, these two guys get the plus and the minus voltage, therefore sending plus 12 volts on pin 30 to pin 87, and pin 87 will go to the neutral light. So this is the lead off of the oil pressure switch. So it's a switched ground. So I'm going to stick that here into either 85 or 86, doesn't really matter which one, as long as the other side, right, gets the positive signal. So let's throw that on there. Now I've got this guy, which is the hot lead to the oil pressure switch light. It wants to come off of 87. Remember, 30 gets switched between 87A and 87. So our power is going to come in on 30 and go switch through to 87. So I've got to put a proper connector on this to attach to that. There's my switched ground from the oil pressure switch. There's the positive to the light. I'm going to take the other one. You can see there's my neutral switch already wired up. I have another hot coming off this black wire down here. So right now I'm just going to plug into that and do exactly this. Make a cable that breaks out from 30 to 86. So I'm sending plus 12 volts to both these pins from one. That's plus 12 volts there. That hits number 30, and then it bridges over into 86 or 85. In this case, it's 86. Ground on the whole thing. I've just got up in the bulb now. So let's look at this and turn the key and see if the oil light goes out.